Yesterday, I told you about Donald Trump Jr., often known as the slightly less dumb Donald Trump son, telling Sean Hannity that the Bidens are bad because Hunter Biden got a consulting gig, a board position, as someone corrected me yesterday, just because his last name is Biden, because he's the son of a former vice president. And the irony was lost either on Don Jr. himself or on his followers, who maybe are just too ignorant to figure out the absurdity of Don Jr. criticizing someone else for nepotism. We talked about that yesterday. Eric Trump now, traditionally known as the dumb one, is jumping on the same bandwagon and saying essentially the same thing. Eric Trump over the weekend was on that crazy Fox News show hosted by wacky judge Jeanine Pirro. And Eric Trump told Jeanine Pirro that it is just sickening, that's his word, when families use power, fame, and money to further enrich themselves. I can barely get through it. It seems that in the same way that Donald Trump completely lacks a sense of humor, the Trump children were born without an ability for self-awareness. Let's take a look at the clip.
They're fighting all of this, yet they have a candidate that lies about being a Cherokee Indian when she's 1/1024th Cherokee. You have a guy whose son is embezzling money from everybody and enriching himself off of his father's position under.
So then where does Joe Biden get off being so pompous and above it all?
Well, I think American people are going to see that. He is pompous, and they are above it all. And if I was doing the same thing that family was doing, I'd be in jail.
That's right.
Why is it that every family goes into politics and enriches themselves? We're the only family.
Yeah, to lose money.
We stopped doing deals when my father became. He was a businessman. We are business people. We stopped doing deals when he went into politics.
Enriching himself off of his father's position. Can you imagine being Eric Trump and saying that on national television and being this out of touch? Can you understand the level at which you are completely clueless when you go on television and say things like this? Never mind, by the way, it's like, obviously he's lying through his teeth. His family stopped doing deals when Trump became president. That's an obvious lie. He says, if I were doing the same things that the Bidens did, I'd be in prison. You're doing way worse, and at least your dad should be in prison. What a total lack of an ability to identify double standards and hypocrisy and irony. And by the way, I'm sure that as wacky as Judge Jeanine Pirro is, I guarantee you that she understands how absurd it is for Eric Trump to be on television saying that families that self-enrich are sickening. But of course, she's a Trump brown-noser, she's a role player, and she's not going to say a word about it because that would be stepping out of the role that she plays. So at least for now, I do still think that that Eric Trump qualifies as the dumbest Trump kid alive. I know we're not supposed to talk about the ones that are underage. I have no idea about their intelligence either. According to what Donald Trump has said about what Barron can do with computers, it certainly sounds like Barron is smarter than Eric. Now, to go back to the earlier thing about how Trump likes to say that the presidency has cost him money, that he's ended conflicts of interest. Eric says that they've stopped doing deals. It's basically all lies with one exception. The exception being that it is probable that the presidency has so stained the Trump brand with many, many people that there are more and more individuals and businesses that want nothing to do with anything named Trump. But those losses have obviously been counteracted with everything from foreign leaders staying at Donald Trump's hotels in order to ingratiate themselves with him, funneling money from their government directly into Trump's pocket, to Trump having hundreds of golf trips to his own golf clubs, which is another transfer of money from the government to his private businesses as Secret Service and everybody else stays at Trump's own resorts. So there may be some way in which there has been some loss to Trump's brand's value as a result of the presidency and Trump's staining of the name, but it is a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of money that has been funneled directly into Trump and his family's bank accounts by foreign governments and by our own government. That's a really important thing to understand. It's not just foreign governments that are enriching Trump. It is our own that is doing the same thing, not exactly draining the swamp as Donald Trump promised to do.